Okay. Should we admit everyone? We good to go?
Yes,
Yep.
I can help.
All right.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining really on time. We are really appreciate your time because this is still like 9 a.m. in the morning in Indonesia, but we are happy to be the first person that you meet in the morning. So thank you again for having us today. So my name is Tuti. I'm from Southern Cross University. I'm the regional manager for Indonesia, and I'm here with my direct manager, Mr. John Dizon. He's the regional director of Southern Cross University based in Philippines. Hi, John.
Hi, Tuti. Good morning. Salamat pagi to everyone.
Selamat pagi. Hope the weather in Philippines is nice today.
Yes, finally, sports are over.
Very nice. And we are having Mr. Adam Robert, the Vice President of Southern Cross University Ventures. Hi, Adam.
Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. Good to have you today and share the good news to Indonesian agents. And last but not the least, of course, Mr. John Trader, the head of admission of Southern Cross University. Hi, John.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. So everyone, we are going to have two agenda today. The first one is going to be the information about the merger of the Hotel School Australia and Southern Cross University. It's going to be delivered by John Dizon, and then the training will be delivered by Adam Robert and Mr. John Froder. And yeah, I think to save the time, I can just offer to you, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuti. And again, salamat pagi to everyone. It's great to see a huge number of partners in the first webinar exclusively for Indonesian agents since the merger of Southern Cross University Hotel School. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, all good?
Okay. Just now, Adam, or?
No, it's all good. Someone else accidentally unmuted themselves, John, so
It's
you
all
can
good.
continue.
All right. I think all of you are aware that very recently SCU has acquired 100% of the stocks of the hotel school, which led to the merging of all SCU and PHS agents globally. Almost all agencies in Indonesia only have THS contracts previously. But this time, there is an exciting opportunity for all of you to also promote Southern Cross University, both the metro campuses in Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth, and also the main campuses located in Gold Coast, Lismore, and Coffs Harbour. Indonesia has been one of the THS top source markets because of the exceptional work done by, of course, Tuti, and obviously the support that all of our partners have given THS. But this time, we are very confident that you will be excited in promoting Southern Cross University too. So to provide us with more information on SCU Metro campuses, program offerings, value propositions, and the very exciting Access 25. We have the Senior Vice President of SCU Ventures, Mr. Adam Roberts. Sir, salamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. Thank you, John, and welcome everyone. So yeah, my name's Adam Roberts. I'm based here in Melbourne in the SCU Melbourne campus, and I've been working with SCU for more than 10 years now. And if you see the slide that I show there on the screen, you'll see that what's happened in the last 2 months is that the hotel school has merged into a part of the university called SCU Ventures. Now, SCU Ventures used to be part of Educo. For those of you that have been around for a while, Educo has had many, many staff based in Indonesia in the past. Educo was running the branch campuses of Southern Cross, first in Sydney and Melbourne, and then Perth. The university acquired that last year, and then the university has now acquired the hotel school, so it's all part of the university. And as I mentioned, those metro campuses have been running for about 10 years or so. So what that means is, as an agency of Southern Cross University, you can recruit into the hotel school, you can recruit into the metro campuses, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. You can even recruit into the main campuses, which are Gold Coast, Lismore, and Coffs Harbour as well. So you have a lot of options for your students covering all of those campuses, which is great news. Also good news, this part of the university, SCU Ventures, we do have our own recruitment team. And we do have our own admissions team. So all of you, I think, have met Tuti on the screen there. Tuti is your single point of contact now for all of these campuses. And we'll hear from John Crowder, who runs our admissions team. And we're very lucky that we've probably got the best admissions team of any university in Australia, who are going to get you offer letters within one business day when you submit an application. So I think that you'll find that our teams are very, very good to work with, very responsive and very friendly. So just a little bit of background about Southern Cross University. Most of you are aware that it's one of the 40 or so public universities in Australia. One of the things that makes it stand out is that it's rapidly increasing its rankings around the world. So you can see here on the Times Higher Ed, the Shanghai ranking and the QS rankings, it's consistently in the top 500. But a very important point is that its ranking is going up very, very quickly. And the main reason for that is the way that Southern Cross teaches students. So they call it the Southern Cross model, and it's quite different to the normal way that universities teach students in Australia. So when a student enrolls at Southern Cross, the most number of units or subjects that they can do at once is 2. Normally, when you go to a university, a student needs to study 4 subjects, and they'll take them for a whole semester, and they'll have a big exam at the end. With Southern Cross, they worked out that that didn't work very well for students, especially international students. So they broke the semester in half. They have 6-week terms, and students only study those 2 subjects at the same time. So since they introduced that, they found the pass rates for students have gone up close to 15%, and also the student satisfaction has gone up by about 10% as well. It's a very good way for international students to study and to pass their subjects in Australia. Since we introduced it, the feedback from students has been excellent. It's not just good for students coming from Indonesia, but if a student has come into Australia, maybe enrolled in a big university that's got 500 students in a class, often those students struggle, and when they transfer to Southern Cross, they find it's much easier to stay up with their classes and to pass as they go along. So we call that the Southern Cross model, and all of your students that study with us will be undertaking their courses under that model. Now, you're already familiar with the hotel school offerings, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of the courses that are offered in the Melbourne, Sydney and Perth campuses. And the first area that we teach is information technology. So we offer a 3-year bachelor degree, a 2-year master's degree there as well. You'll see that the BIT is accredited by ACS, which the Australian Computer Society is very important for students if they're planning to stay in Australia and get some work experience after they graduate from there. Students can specialise in software development and digital interaction in there. In the master's degree, students can choose either cybersecurity or software development, which are 2 of the most popular majors in those courses. So that's the first area we teach is IT. Secondly, in the business area, the main courses are a Bachelor of Business and also the MBA. In the 3-year bachelor, there's lots of specializations. They can do marketing, entrepreneurship, management, business analytics. and also take specializations in accounting and financial services, which are accredited. So the BBiz is a very popular course with students from Indonesia. And at the postgrad level, we do offer an MBA where they can either specialize in accounting or managing and leading people. The next area in engineering, we offer a postgraduate program that's actually a double master's. So when a student graduates from this, they don't come out with one, they come out with two master's degrees. They come out with an MBA and also a Master of Engineering Management. But it's the same cost as a standard master's degree at the university. It's a really good course for people that have studied in a technical area and they're looking to move into more of a management area or to set up their own businesses. So it's suitable for those kind of graduates out there. So that's the double master's MBA, Master of Engineering Management. And this area here, the last area that I'll just go through in a bit more detail, is probably the most popular area for students in Australia to study at the moment. And that's in the area of teaching, especially in the specialization of early childhood. So we just launched these courses this year. The Graduate Diploma of Education, we opened just in July in T3. And there is a huge number of students looking to study that. Now, on the left, the Graduate Diploma of Education, it's a 1-year course. So it's mostly suitable for students that are already in Australia and they've already studied a degree. Now, if they study the grad dip for 1 year course, they can graduate and work in early childhood. And there are a massive number of jobs that they can't fill in early childhood. So it's a good opportunity for students to enroll in that course if they're looking to get work experience and even potentially stay in Australia. That course there at the moment, we've got more than 1,000 students that have applied already for it for the term 1 next year, and it's extremely popular. If you have any offices in Australia or you've got students that are in Australia, I definitely recommend that they have a look at that grad dip early childhood. Now, with that course, most students study it on a graduate visa, a 485 visa. As a result of that, they don't need to come onto campus like they do on a student visa. So students enroll in that. They can come in and attend classes, or they can continue to work and then take the classes online as they do it, but it depends on their type of visa. Almost all of the students do it on a 485 graduate visa, so they can attend online. Now, if you're dealing with students offshore, the best option for them is a Master of Teaching. So this course kicks off from term 1 next year. You can lodge new applications for another 4 weeks. So you have until the 3rd of January to apply for your students to get here for term 1. The Masters of Teaching is a 2-year qualification. So it meets the 2-year study requirement for students that want to stay in Australia. It also qualifies them to be a teacher of early childhood. And as I just mentioned, there are many jobs available all across Australia for that course. Now, both of these courses, they include some coursework, but they also include a 60-day placement at a childcare centre. So they've got that built-in work experience as part of the qualification. The university organises that, so students don't need to go and find their own placement. The university does it for them. It's a compulsory part of the course, which means that students can continue working on their student visa work rights if they have one, but they also get to do a professional placement on top of that. One thing to be aware of, the placements for the Master of Teaching and the GDEC, they're generally not paid. So it's part of their coursework, it's not paid, but students can continue to work outside that on their visa, whatever their visa allows. All right, for students that also want to get more experience in industry, we run a free program which is called Career Edge. And through that, we teach students about how to look for a job, how to apply for a job, how to prepare themselves for an interview. They learn all of those things alongside their classes, and then we can help organize internship placements for their students at the end of their course. So we call this program the Career Edge, and students that undertake it have a very good chance of finding a job after they graduate. And a lot of students actually end up being employed by the company where we place them in an internship as part of the course. So it's completely free. Students just need to sign up for it. It's taken outside their classes, but it's a very good opportunity for students that want to get that work experience in Australia. Just finally, the final thing that I'll mention is a promotion that we launched nearly 2 months ago called Access 25. So before we introduced this, Southern Cross was like nearly every university in Australia. There was all sorts of different tuition fees across courses. There was all sorts of different scholarships that depended on which country you came from, what your grades were, when you applied, all those kind of things. Southern Cross decided to make it as simple as possible, and they changed all of their annual tuition fees for 2025 to be a flat $25,000. So we removed all of the scholarships that were already there, and we just brought all of the tuition fees down to be set at $25,000. And that applies to all students who start a course in 2025. It also applies to students who are continuing in a course. So if a student's currently enrolled at Southern Cross, they might be paying $30,000, $35,000. As soon as they start studying next year, their fees are going to be reset to $25,000. So as a result of that, you can tell your students that Southern Cross is probably the best value public university in Australia for them to study at. As you're aware, universities, a lot of big universities often have tuition fees of $30,000, $40,000, even $50,000. So setting the fees at $25,000 means that a lot more students can access Southern Cross. You'll notice there, I've listed the website Access 25. If you just Google Access 25, it'll take you through to the information page. It covers all of the courses across the Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth campus. There are some courses like veterinary and nursing that are excluded on the main campus, but we don't run them Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, so you won't have to worry about that. So in terms of our courses, as I mentioned, they're fairly simple: undergrad, postgrad, business, and IT. We have engineering, and then also the education and the teaching courses. You'll notice that all of the tuition fees are $25,000 for next year, which is very, very, very easy for you to remember. So just before I hand over to Mr. John Crowder, I'd just like to thank you for attending again. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the chat of the meeting, and we'll definitely get to them at the end there. But I will now hand over to Mr. John Crowder to run us through the admissions for Indonesia. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Adam, and good morning, everyone. A pleasure to be with you all this morning. I will go through the admissions and genuine student requirements for students. So I will reshare my screen. So what we have here is our GSR and admissions guide. So this is an online tool that allows you to see in real time the same information that the admissions team looks at when they are assessing an application. So this provides you all of the information that you need to make a decision on whether or not the student meets the requirements for entry. To use this, all you need to do is type Indonesia into the search, hit enter. You will see that Indonesia appears on the left-hand side with this accordion drop-down menu. Everything's organized in order of when certain documents are required. And the first one there you will see is the genuine student statement. Now, For Indonesia, you'll all be aware of the excellent news that in the most recent evidence level update, Indonesia has gone to level 1. This means that we can significantly reduce the amount of evidence that we require for Indonesian students, both at the university and the hotel school. So you'll see that under the genuine student statement, we state that this may be requested. So it will not always be required of every student. This will be a decision made by the assessor at the point of application and will depend on the quality of the application, the student's profile, their academic background, their English background, all of this sort of thing. If we consider that the student is a very low risk case, we will probably not request a genuine student statement from you. If we do request that, there is a link here to the template. Clicking on that link will take you through to a PDF form. If the genuine student statement is required, this would be the format that it needs to be completed in. The first part of the genuine student statement is basically a checkbox where you tick yes or no, depending on your responses. And also, depending on your answer, yes or no, you may be required to provide some additional information, but not always. So that is the first part of the genuine student statement. Very simple to fill in, doesn't take a lot of time. The second part, we give you a table of what we expect to be answered in the short answer questions. So we do recommend that you read this if you are requested to provide a genuine student statement, and ensure that the items outlined here are covered in the questions below. The short answer questions come here, and these questions are exactly the same questions that the student would be expected to answer in their student visa application. The first 3 questions are common to all students and must be answered. The 4th question allows you to provide additional details that you've not been able to provide above. And we always recommend that if you are asked to provide a genuine student statement, that you do provide additional details here that might help support the student's case. The 5th question only relates to students who have previously studied in Australia, and they are asked to provide a detailed history of their previous study in Australia. So that doesn't usually apply to offshore students. Then basically there's a declaration at the end saying that the student understands what this genuine student statement means. You would then forward that through to the application in StudyLink, and we would assess it from there. So as I said, that is only if you are requested to provide a genuine student statement. In most cases, it will not be required. As I go through this, of course, please do feel free to put any questions in the chat box, and we will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. Of course, we can issue conditional offers. Those conditional offers are usually made on English language. So if the student hasn't got their English language results yet, we can make a conditional offer on that. We can also make it on financial and genuine student requirements if those are required. Where a conditional offer is made, the applicant will generally be required to meet the conditions of the offer prior to being able to accept and us issuing a COE. The documentation required. So as Adam mentioned before, we are very proud of the fact that we are probably the fastest admissions team in the country. We will guarantee that you will get an offer letter within 24 hours of submission of your application, provided you submit the necessary documents. Now, obviously, the first one here is a completed application form, and that is done through StudyLink. So there is a link there through to the agent portal in StudyLink, where you would log in and submit your application. Secondly, we obviously require academic transcripts. So we cannot issue an offer without the evidence of completion of a qualification, whether that be high school for undergraduate entry or a bachelor's degree for postgraduate entry. We need a color copy of the biodata page of the student's passport. And if the student is married, we require a copy of their marriage certificate. So these 4 documents should be provided upfront. And as I said, if we receive all of those documents, we can issue an offer within 24 hours. Obviously, if the student is not married, we don't require a marriage certificate. If the student is applying for advanced standing, this is more common for onshore students, but we do get some offshore students applying for advanced standing or credit based on previous studies. They can download and complete the advanced standing application form. We do prefer that if a student is going to apply for advanced standing, that they do it at the time of application, because if a student is applying for credit, it will obviously impact the duration of the course, and that will impact the duration of the COE that we issue. So if a student is applying for credit for 4 subjects that they have previously studied, for example, that would reduce the duration of a bachelor degree from 3 years to 2.5 years. So ideally, we would have that up front. As I said, most offshore students don't apply for advanced standing. So if that is not required, that's fine. We don't need that. For the genuine student assessment, again, this is only if requested. So we say the following documents may be requested, and that would be the genuine student statement. If the student has work experience, we would generally request a copy of a work reference or employment letter. And very importantly, if the student has a previous visa refusal or cancellation for any country, we would require a copy of that visa refusal notice or cancellation notice. Now, just on that, if the student has had a previous visa refusal to Australia or the US, Canada, UK, wherever it might be, that does not mean that we will reject the application. That is why we ask for a copy of the visa refusal notice, so we can look at the reasons for the refusal and work with you to help get the student across the line. So please, don't try to hide a visa refusal from us. If the student has one, send us a copy of the refusal letter and we will help you through that process. Now, the academic requirements. These requirements will apply to SCU, and you can see the hotel school is separately listed below. So for the courses that Adam was mentioning before, we have these outlined here and listed as diploma, undergraduate studies, so bachelor degree, or postgraduate, which would be a master's or a graduate diploma. So For entry into a diploma, and we will take diploma pathways from Indonesia because it is level 1. For entry into the university's diploma programs, we need an SMA result of 7.2 or an SMK of 7.4. Into the bachelor degree, we require the SMA of 7.6, and into a postgraduate master's degree, we require generally successful completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree from a Section 1 university, or successful completion of a 2-year follow-up degree from a Section 2 university. Now, if the student does not meet those requirements specifically, please feel free to send me an email, and I will put my email address in the chat box shortly. If you are not sure whether the student meets the entry requirements or not, I'm happy for you to email me first rather than submit an application and ask me, John, does this student meet the requirements? We understand it takes a lot of time to put an application through the system, and you don't want to waste time putting through an application that may not meet the requirements. So please feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions on that. The hotel school you should all be familiar with by now, but generally speaking, we go by the ATAR equivalent in Australia. So for the Diploma of Hotel Management and the Associate Degree of International Hotel and Tourism Management, we require successful completion of 12th grade with an ATAR of 60 equivalent. For the Bachelor of Business in Hotel Management, it is successful completion of Year 12 with an ATAR 65 or equivalent. And for postgraduate, it's completion of an Australian bachelor's degree or equivalent. So there's no minimum score there for the bachelor's degree. Financials. For Indonesia, we generally do not require evidence of financials. Now, again, as I said earlier, the same with the genuine student statement. If we consider a student's profile to be one of risk, we may request financial details. However, we will not ask for the in-depth financials that we require for high-risk countries. So if we request evidence of finances, all we would be looking for is evidence that the applicant has access to sufficient funds to cover their first year of tuition and their living expenses. So that would really just need to be a bank statement from their financial sponsor showing that they have access to those funds. That is all. But as I said, generally speaking, we will not request that information. The student, by applying and accepting their offer, they are declaring that they have access to those funds. Minimum GTE requirements. Now, we do have some requirements here, and that is mainly around age limits. So for Indonesian students, we will allow undergraduate students, so a student applying for a bachelor's degree, up to the age of 30. Over 30 years, we would consider generally not suitable for a bachelor's degree. For postgraduate, we would look at between 35 and 40 years as the upper limit. So 40 on a case-by-case basis, generally 35. The important thing to note is that we do not accept applications under the age of 18 years. That also applies to the hotel school. We will accept an application from a student who is under 18, but we will not issue a COE until the student turns 18. We don't provide welfare support services for underage students, so they must have turned 18 at the time we issue their COE. We will consider things like course relevance. If the student is applying for a course that is completely different to what they have studied in the past, that is when we may request a genuine student statement. So let's say they've done a bachelor in accounting, and now they're asking to do a Master of Computing. We would consider that in light of their overall profile. And if it doesn't make sense, we may ask for written confirmation of why. And as I said, we'll also look at the student's visa history. It does not mean that we will refuse an application if they've had a previous visa refusal, but we will ask for further information on that. Specific genuine student requirements, you can see there are none. Because Indonesia is a level 1 country, we try to minimize the requirements here. Our English requirements are all laid out. They are fairly standard for what you would find in most Australian institutions. Entry into our diploma courses requires an IELTS of 5.5 with no band less than 5, or a PTE score of 42 with no band less than 36. Into the Diploma of Hotel Management, that is slightly different, an overall IELTS 5.5 with 5.5 in writing and no other band less than 5. For undergraduate entry into our bachelor degrees, it will be IELTS 6 with no band less than 5.5, or PTE 50 with no band less than 46. We have a graduate diploma of business. So that graduate diploma has the same requirements as our general master's degrees, which is IELTS 6.5 with no band less than 6, or PTE 58 with no band less than 50. And that applies to our master's degrees also. The only exception in the postgraduate space is in education. Adam mentioned these courses to you earlier. These are extremely popular courses. They do have a higher English requirement, and that requirement is set by the registration body in Australia because the student is going to be teaching in an Australian classroom where the medium of instruction is English. They must provide evidence of higher English. So entry into the graduate diploma of education in early childhood requires an IELTS of 6.5 with no band less than 6.5, or PTE 58 with no band less than 58. If the student wants to apply for the Master of Teaching in Early Childhood directly, that would be an IELTS 7 with no band less than 7, or a PTE 65 with no band less than 65. The good news is that the graduate diploma is the first year of the master's. So if the student does not meet the IELTS 7 requirement for direct entry into the master's, they can apply for a packaged offer with the graduate diploma leading to the master's. In that case, they would only need to meet the IELTS 6.5 requirement. Now, generally speaking, for offshore countries, we don't allow ELICOS pathways. However, for Indonesia, we do allow a 10-week maximum where the applicant's profile meets requirements. This will be approved on a case-by-case basis, depending on the course the student is studying, etc. But there is an option for an ELICOS pathway if absolutely required. So that is the end of my presentation. I will pass back to Adam, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John. I noticed there that we do have a question that's come in from Niken. It asks, "Hi team, I'd like to ask about Career Edge. Is this an internship provided by the campus, or it's more like a preparation class or career consultation?" So the good news is that it's both. So it's a series of training sessions for students that help them with preparing their CV, teaching them how to look for jobs, teaching them how to apply for jobs, teaching them how to go to an interview. And then we also do help place the students in an internship towards the end of their course. So it includes both of those things. It's taken in addition to a student's course. So before a semester, we let students know about how they can come along and join up for it. And yeah, it's completely free of charge. All the students welcome to join up for Career Edge. So I hope that answered your question, Niken. I think, John, there is a question here from you. Tudi, you've sent it to my direct
Yes, it's
message.
from IDP Tangerang. So a question
okay.
from the border.
Yeah, what I might do is I'll put that in the meeting there. So so John Crowder will be able to have a look at it there. That's the question related to admissions, I think. John, there's a new comment in there from IDP. If you could have a look at that one.
Okay, just having a look. So student from New Zealand with an NZQA level 4 qualification after graduating in 2019 enrolled in a one-year bachelor program there. But due to the passing of his father and onset of COVID, had to stop his studies, now interested in studying in Australia. Will he face any obstacles regarding admission or his visa? So certainly there will be no obstacles from an admissions perspective. The student is from Indonesia, he's a level 1 student. We don't have any problem with that. I do have a question though. When you say a one-year bachelor degree, do you mean that he enrolled in his first year of a bachelor degree, or the bachelor degree was only 1 year in duration?
I guess due to the family condition, he have to return back before he finished the study. So he didn't finish the bachelor degree and only study for 1 year and not complete it.
Okay, that's fine. So in that case, there won't be any obstacles from our side. We would just need evidence because there is a gap in study. So we would request for evidence of that. So if the reason was that his father had passed away, we would need a copy of the death certificate, and that would be enough. From a visa point of view, I obviously can't give you any guarantees there. We all know that Australian immigration make up their own mind about things. Whilst I would like to say that the student shouldn't have any problems, we can't guarantee that. From my experience, where the student explains clearly the reasons for the gap and the fact here that his father had passed away and it coincided with COVID and all of that, I think it should be relatively low risk. So I would say go ahead and apply.
Yeah, John, there's another question there from Ayiza asking, for a 35 to 40-year-old, how do we overcome the postgrad visa? So this is related to the new age restrictions on the postgraduate work visa, I guess?
Yes, that's correct. The simple answer to that is we can't. Immigration has imposed an age limit of 35 on the 485 visa. We can't do anything about that. what we're saying is that we will accept a postgraduate student aged between 35 and 40 if they want to come to Australia to study and then go back to Indonesia. That is fine. But unfortunately, a student who has hit the age of 35 will not be eligible to apply for a 485 visa after that. So they need to consider that in their thinking about coming to Australia.
Thanks, John. Maybe Tuti, were there any particular areas that you'd like maybe John to cover again regarding admissions or entrance requirements, or anything else you'd like to hear about?
I think it's all clear, Adam. I'm more interested into your suggestion maybe about Indonesian market, because when I represent THS, very often I got a question about, do you have any other courses, but we don't have. And now I'm happy to inform that we have plenty of choices for Indonesia, where Indonesian people, they love to do business, IT, and especially now we have Master of Teaching in Early Childhood. So talking about our campuses, Adam, we have like 4 campuses with the THS and ACU at 4 biggest cities in Australia. So which city are you recommending more for those who are looking for employment after they finish their study? Is it going to be Perth or no?
Yeah, it's a good question. Employment. So I think if I was a student coming to Australia, like I'd obviously be influenced on where my friends or my family were, or where I had connections. Probably that's the most obvious thing. But if a student's really evaluating different cities, they do have different kind of advantages and disadvantages. So I'll just share my screen again there. So if we look at the 3 cities of Sydney, Melbourne, and Perth. So Sydney is probably the most famous city. It's the most, you could say it's the most beautiful city. And there are certain industries that are based there that are bigger than in other parts of Australia. For example, the finance industry is very, very large in Sydney. So I think a student should look at what they're wanting to study and then look at where those jobs are. And a good way of working out where the jobs are to jump on a website called SEEK, S-E-E-K. And if you, for example, want to be a software engineer, you could put in software engineering jobs into SEEK, and you can check how many jobs are in Sydney, how many are in Melbourne, how many are in Perth. And that could help you decide which city to go in as well. A lot of people know that Perth is very close to Indonesia. There are parts of Indonesia that are just 3 to 4 hours flying time away from Perth. So similar time zone, it means it's easy to travel backwards and forwards and go and visit your family and everything. Perth's a beautiful city that's got a very large mining industry over there. So there's lots of employment available in things like the mining industry and the resources industry. Melbourne is kind of the cultural centre of Australia. For students that might be a little bit more creative, they might like to come to Melbourne. It's also famous for its food and having a bit of a European culture. But every city in Australia has got kind of different selling points. With our campuses, one thing that we have done is we've located them right in the centre of the cities. So the Sydney campus is about 100 metres from Central Station in Sydney. In Melbourne, in Lonsdale Street, we're in the just in the CBD, and in Perth, we're in Hay Street, which is the middle of the city. That's important because a lot of the jobs are available around the cities themselves, and also that's how the transport works in Australia. It kind of comes in and out of the city, so it's quite easy for students to travel to the campuses and also access work and employment while they're down there as well. But I'm a little bit biased. I like Melbourne, but I also really love Perth and Sydney. So it really comes down to the individual student, Tuti.
Yeah, and that's good that we have more option now, everyone. Thank you so much, Adam. Talking about Access 25, I think we are making a very good move with offering the agents that we have Access 25, and we are happy to do the campaign at the moment. I have some question. Are we still offering another scholarship out of Access 25, or that's it? That's the best that we can offer?
Yeah, that's what we've done is we've reduced the tuition fees across the whole university by about 25%. And when we did that, all of the tuition fees came out at about $25,000. So rather than having scholarships, we've replaced that by having the most affordable tuition fees of a public university. Now, that means that when you apply, you know exactly how much the students' tuition fees are going to be. And also, it's easy for you to communicate to the student what it's going to be. The current system and the way that it works in most universities, whole range of tuition fees, which don't really make sense, and then scholarships that change during a student's program, which means it's very hard for students to budget how much money they're going to need to study. So it makes it pretty simple to promote to students and communicate to them what their fees are going to be.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's a great clarity for everybody. And of course, fast turnaround is very good and offering simplicity and affordability. I think we have another 2 questions on the list. From Alit
Right.
Nurhidayat.
Yeah, would you like to read them out, Tootie?
Yes. Hey, all, thank you for the information provided. I would like to ask the question, if student interested to study master in early childhood while students' background is not from education, bachelor in home country, for example, bachelor of art, and their experience in teaching is less than 2 years, are you considered the student's case or should have any minimum experiences? This is a very good question.
So I have responded to those 2 questions below in the chat box, but just for everyone to hear, I guess, the education courses do not require a cognate background. So that means that if the student has got a bachelor degree in business, for example, they are still eligible to apply for the postgraduate diploma in education or the Master of Education. However, if the course that they have previously studied is too different, like they've done an engineering degree and now they want to do teaching, or they've done a nursing degree and now they want to do teaching, we would request further information. So in that case, we would request a written statement asking the student to explain why they want to change their career. But that does not mean that we will reject. We would probably accept the student as long as they can explain their reasons.
Thanks, John. Adam, next question, asking about the internship and also is it paid or unpaid? I guess the answer is it could be paid and unpaid with ACU and the internship duration.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different types of placements. So I'll just go back to the education courses first of all. So the graduate diploma and the Masters of Teaching, they include a placement that's organised by the university. It generally happens in the students' approximately 3rd term onwards. Now, those placements are generally not paid. So it's different to the hotel school where the students are paid a rate there. These, as part of their education courses, are not paid internships. For the ones that are taken through the Career Edge program, they can be paid, but it's not guaranteed. We never guarantee a paid placement for the students.
Thanks, Adam. Question from William, also already answered by John. And next question from Enaisi. Chin, thank you for your question. If student graduated from THS, will they graduate certificate from THS only or both? Well, from the beginning, we are always mentioning that with THS, the certificate is going to be from Southern Cross University. All appear at the offer letter, COA, and also the certificate. Thank you, Chin. Well, we have a very good question today. And I guess this is the highlight of today, everyone. We are having Access 25. We are having Master of Teaching in Early Childhood. Do we have any limit of accepting students, Adam? Because I know this is a very popular course in Australia.
Yeah, so at the moment, we were planning on having about 100 students start in February next year. At the moment, we've got more than 1,000 students that have applied. So we have not put a cap on it yet on that course, but I would highly recommend, if you have a student interested, that you apply as early as possible, because it's likely that we will put some limits on how many students we can take. So if you have a student offshore, you have until the 3rd of January to submit an application, but I wouldn't wait that long. If you have a student potentially interested, get the application in as soon as you can. You'll get your offer letter back within 1 business day, and then you can at least get the student started on the process.
Yep, that's true. I guess it is also reflected to our first application from Indonesia. It's also from Master of Teaching in Early Childhood. So please submit your application as soon as possible, because we are going to close by 3rd of January for the application submission. Thank you so much, Adam. I think I'm going to pass to John this one for the closing.
Thank you, Tuti, and I would like to appreciate again everyone for joining us. We had a total number of 134 attending this webinar, which I would say is a record for Southeast Asia webinar. So really appreciate it. And of course, please expect Miss Tuti to reach out to you. And you could also get in touch with her if you want another full training of both SCU Metro campuses and even the hotel school. And we are so much looking forward to a very good partnership with all of you. And would also like to thank Mr. Adam Roberts and John Crowder for the very informative webinar. And again, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Terima kasih, and we'll see you around. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Selamat pagi semua.
Terima kasih.
Thank you. Terima kasih.